Okay, so I'm going to do things a little differently. I am going to go through some of the movies that I've seen back in October and in November that honestly I didn't really have too many thoughts on, and I kind of just condensed it all into one video to kind of just get them all out of the way and to kind of just move on into the future with all these other movies that are coming out in the next few weeks. I'm going to save some for their own reviews because I feel like those movies deserve to have their own reviews as opposed to these, which I feel like I can just say a few things about them and just forget about them. So in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the movies I saw this past October, including Gemini Man, Addams Family, Jexi, Maleficent 2, Zombieland 2, Black and Blue, Countdown, and The Current War, Director's Cut. So, with that out of the way, let's start off with Gemini Man, directed by Ang Lee, and it's about a man played by Will Smith who is an agent, and he's tracking down this man who he discovers is actually a younger version of himself. Honestly, the premise doesn't sound too bad, it's just the film sounds very 90s to me. I heard this movie, I'm like, wow, that sounds great. This would be a great movie to release in 1997. And no, it was released in 2019, and turns out this movie had been in development since the 1990s. Yeah, no wonder why. So, Will Smith is really good in the movie. The visual effects were decent. They weren't embarrassingly bad or anything. The action scenes were fine, but they weren't like mind-blowing, unfortunately. And the thing I really did not care for in this movie was this movie is building up what the main conflict is for the most part, and what they're hiding is the fact that, Will Smith is hunting down a younger version of Will Smith and vice versa. And the thing is, we already knew that. So, and it's like, it's supposed to be this big reveal in the middle of the movie, and it's like, I'm not surprised because we saw the trailers for this already. And yeah, it kind of annoyed me where it's like, this is the big reveal that they're the same person. Like, this movie, if I was on the marketing team for this movie, I wouldn't even reveal that was a twist. I would save that, do posters like, who is Gemini Man? And no, instead we just have this twist that you already knew because they showed it in all the trailers, they showed it all on the posters. So it's not that enthralling. Also, the movie implies that there's a ton of other Will Smith clones running around. That made no sense and is never really touched upon. Overall, Gemini Man's not a bad movie. It's mostly a forgettable one. But you could do so much better, you could do so much worse. If this movie was released in the 90s, maybe this would be a classic, like a 90s guilty pleasure movie like Face Off or Con Air or something like that. But overall, not really worth the time. I will give it 2 out of 4 stars. Stream it. Alright, so next up is Addams Family, and it's an animated movie based on the cartoon and the comic strip. And was it a comic strip? I don't remember. It was a TV show at one point, and they also had 2 movies at one point. And this animated version stars Charlize Theron, Oscar Isaac, Chloe Grace Moretz, Finn Wolfhard, a ton of people, too many to name. And it's about the Addams family just moving into this new neighborhood, and this villain wants to basically get them out of town. Yeah, haven't seen that before. And the film it's okay. It's nicely animated for the most part. It's nice to look at. There are some great designs, particularly in that Addams household, and the characters themselves, they're really nice. But yeah, the jokes for the most part were either hit or miss. Sometimes it'd be like, okay, that's kind of funny. And other times it'd be like, that's not so funny. That's just average, I guess. And I guess the best way to describe this movie is that it looks like it looks like the characters are rejects from Dr. Seuss's The Lorax, with the style and humor of Hotel Transylvania. And depending on how you feel about those movies, that's how you'll feel about this. If you love those movies, you'll probably like this one too. And if you don't like those movies, you probably won't like this either. And if you're just mixed about them overall, then you'll probably just be mixed about this movie too. So that's kind of how I feel. Overall, it's alright. You can forget it in a couple hours, but really not too much to really pay attention to. I will give it 2.5 out of 4 stars. Stream it. Alright, so next up is one of the two really bad movies on this video. It's Jexi. The film stars Adam Devine, who is attached to his phone. He can't live without his phone. He has to hold his phone and look at it all the time. And one day, his phone breaks, and he has to get a new phone with the Siri-like person on the phone known as Jexi, who really starts taking control of his life. And honestly, the trailers didn't make me laugh too much, but it's like, whatever, I'll see it, see what I think. And then I saw it, and ooh, it is not funny. I don't think I laughed once during this movie. It is embarrassing. It is stupid. None of the characters make any logical choices in this movie. It is just so stupid. Like, okay, the main thing at one point, at the beginning, Adam Devine is walking in the street with his phone. It's like, oh, take me to work, phone. Let's do this. Next day, he has his regular phone. In the scene where his phone breaks, he runs to his main love interest, of course. This is the scene where his phone also breaks. So the next day, he gets a new phone, and it has this Jexi on it. And so, next thing you know, he gets into his car, and then he drives to work. And I'm like, you have a car? You have a car! This whole movie could have been prevented if you just drove to work. And he also does really stupid things throughout the entire movie. Like, the third act is really stupid. He's really stupid. He doesn't realize that his phone is controlling him after showing him numerous times she's controlling him. It also has a weird style, too, because it feels like it's both an indie movie and a raunchy comedy, and neither one really landed for me. This one is just not funny. It is just painful. Like, I didn't even know what to say for a while after watching it. It was just bad. Yikes. So I will give that 1 out of 4 stars. Skip it. Okay, so next up we have Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, the completely necessary sequel to the completely necessary Maleficent. Now, I wasn't a really big fan of the first Maleficent. I thought Angelina Jolie was really good. Nothing else about that movie worked. So I wasn't really clamoring for a sequel to this. And after watching it, I realized I did not need a sequel to this. I was right. So the thing with this movie that I thought was really good was the fact that some of the characters from the first movie who were terrible in the first movie were actually better in this movie. Like, the fairies were annoying in the first movie. This one, they actually do stuff that's actually smart. Meanwhile, I thought Elle Fanning was kind of bland in the first movie. The second one, she kind of has more personality. Michelle Pfeiffer is also really good in this movie, too, as the villain. Also, it looks alright, I guess. The production design looks really well. The visuals still need work, though. It's amazing that, even though this movie comes like 5 years after the first one, it still looks like garbage. But Angelina Jolie, who was really good in the first Maleficent, is not that good in this one, unfortunately. Chiwetel Ejiofor is fine. He doesn't really get to do too much. And the film has like 3 different styles to it. Like, the first act is a really bad episode of Real Housewives of Disney. That may sound bad, but that's kind of how I felt about it, because both women were very catty to each other. Like, Angelina Jolie and Michelle Pfeiffer were just trading insults to each other. And I'm like, if this was on Real Housewives, I kind of wouldn't be that surprised. So then the second act is just this entire backstory of Maleficent's kind. And yeah, Angelina Jolie doesn't even talk in the second act. I found that odd. Which is, anyway. And then the third act is basically a bad knockoff of an episode of Game of Thrones. That's basically the way to say it. Aside from a couple good performances, improvements from the first one, an okay production design, and a few nice homages to Sleeping Beauty, which the first one could have used. Yeah, this one just still did not really work for me, unfortunately. So I will give this movie 2 out of 4 stars. Stream it. Alright, next up we have Zombieland Double Tap. This was a movie I was so excited about and so nervous at the same time for. Because, like, I really enjoyed the first Zombieland, and we had the original cast coming back, we had the director, Ruben Fleischer, coming back. But I was kind of nervous because sequels, for the most part, usually are not good, especially comedy sequels. And we've been getting a rash of comedy sequels that are coming out way too late. Like, we had Dumb and Dumber 2, Zoolander 2. And I was kind of worried Zombieland 2 was going to follow in that direction. And mostly to my surprise, okay, so another thing I did not like, that I didn't like in the lead up to this movie, was that the first movie was the four of them. You know, Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Emma Stone, and Abigail Breslin. And this movie looked like we had so many new people. Like, you had Luke Wilson, you had Rosario Dawson, you had Thomas Middleditch, you had Evan Jogia, you had all these people, and it's like, what happened to the first one? Like, what about the four of them? I really like the first four. Like, we don't need all these new characters for the most part. And to my surprise, I had a lot of fun with this one. Sometimes it's like better directed than the first one. Like, there are some shots in this movie that are like actually really, really good. Like, there are a few long takes in this movie. I'm like, I did not expect that from this movie. That is really interesting. Like, a really cool fight scene between two zombies in, like, towards the end of the movie. It's really awesome. And oh yeah, the big climactic battle at the end. That was also a whole lot of fun. Like, yeah, I had a big smile on my face. That was so much fun. I think that's the best way to say this. This movie's a whole lot of fun. If you love the first Zombieland, see this one. I think my biggest issue with this movie is the fact that, despite, like, you know, the beginning of the movie is basically speaking about how zombies have evolved over the years and how they're different now. Ironically, the movie is not very evolved from the first one, because it's still kind of about the same thing. It's about family and how family is super important. And we get it. We got that in the first movie. But, you know, it's like, I kind of wish they kind of evolved from that a bit. But instead they evolved with more characters, and I don't know if that completely worked out. So, also there's like a really fun mid-credit scene involving a really cool cameo. So overall, it's a lot of fun, but it can be annoying depending on what you're looking for. So in the end, I'll give Zombieland Double Tap 3 out of 4 stars. See it. It's a whole lot of fun. Alright, so next up is Black and Blue. It's directed by Dion Taylor, and it stars Naomi Harris, Tyrese Gibson, and Frank Grillo. And it involves Harris, who's a police detective, a rookie, who is assigned to work with a cop, and she notices that this cop and a bunch of other cops are dirty cops, and basically she's now framed for murder. And the thing that I did not want to deal with in this movie was actually the director of this movie, because he directed a movie that came out this year as well called The Intruder, which as of right now is my least favorite movie of the year. And I did not want to see another movie by him. But to my surprise, this movie it's tolerable. It's passable. The two leads, Naomi Harris and Tyrese Gibson, they're really good in the movie. What I kind of don't like about this movie is this whole movie feels so convoluted. Like, every cop in this movie is dirty. And that kind of annoyed me for a bit. I'm not going to take a stand about that whole situation, but I'm just saying in this movie, it just seemed weird that like 95% of the cops in this movie were just dirty. And it kind of annoyed me for a while. Also, the pacing of this movie is not very good either. That was one of my biggest problems with The Intruder, and it's my biggest problem with Black and Blue. Is that this movie could have been simple, 90 minutes, but no, they drag it out to 100 plus minutes. And it's like, this movie could be like 10 minutes shorter, and it would have been fun. Not fun, but like very well constructed. But no, we gotta add an extra 10 minutes for things that we kind of already know, and for subplots that we kind of already know about, and really add nothing new to the movie, unfortunately. Black and Blue, well acted, does say a lot, it's a lot of fun, but I kind of wish that a better film kind of came out with this subject matter than this one. So I will give Black and Blue 2.5 out of 4 stars. Stream it. Okay. So the next movie I saw was the current war director's cut. We have to clarify it's the director's cut because of some behind the scenes drama between the release of the film. It was supposed to be released all the way back in 2017, but then some things happened in 2017 that I will not talk about. And this movie follows basically the war for electricity involving Thomas Edison, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, George Westinghouse, played by Michael Shannon, and Nikola Tesla, played by Nicholas Hoult. And actually, this was one of the few movies that I was kind of worried about because, again, it was delayed for 2 years, and it was technically a director's cut, and that's basically I'm kind of worried because of how long it was being pushed back. It means it was a sign that it wasn't necessarily that good, because that's usually a sign if a movie keeps getting pushed back, it's usually not good. So I saw it, and I actually kind of enjoyed it. I thought it was actually very fascinating. It was a nice little history lesson. It's a good movie to watch if you're ever learning about Thomas Edison and such. The acting is really solid across the board, mainly from Cumberbatch, Shannon. Also, crap, I'm forgetting her name. What was it? Oh man, this is driving me nuts. I'll just say this, the actress from Alien Covenant, the lead actress, I forgot what her name was, it's gonna drive me nuts. She was surprisingly really good in this movie too. I never really got a hold of her until I saw this movie. Oh, that sounds bad, but I never really got her as an actress until I saw this movie. I thought she was really good in this movie. I thought she was very conniving, thought she was very good as Westinghouse's wife. I thought she was really good. They're really, like, and also the production design's really good, the cinematography's really good. I think it does drag on in a few places, which is probably my biggest issue with this movie. But overall, Current War Director's Cut is a movie that I didn't think I was planning on seeing, but then I'm glad I saw it anyway. So I'll give it 3 out of 4 stars. I would definitely see it. Now let's talk about the last movie on this list. The other really bad movie, also interestingly enough involving a phone, an app and such, called Countdown. And this movie follows a phone app that will tell you when you will die. And this nurse finds out that she only has 3 days to live. And this movie would have been really cool to watch with your friends if you're just getting drunk. In 2015. And this was on Netflix, because this would be one of the few movies that would be on the streaming service at that time. But the thing is, someone actually put this in theaters for Halloween weekend. For people to see as a group. It's like, no, come to the theater and see this movie. And it's so bad. Okay. There's one really funny scene with the guy who works at the cell phone shop. Also one creepy scene. That's it. Everything else in this movie is trash. The acting is really bad. The story is really bad. The characters, oh my god, they're awful. So, the main girl, she gets a new phone after realizing that this Countdown app is like ruining her life. She meets this guy, and he becomes a new character. It's like, oh, okay, you're introducing this movie just 30 minutes into this 90-minute movie. Fine. So then, at one point, they go to the hospital. Oh, by the way, they do not introduce their names to each other in this scene. So then he has a vision at the hospital, and they mention his name in this vision, like, Matt, how dare you? And he becomes shocked, and he's sent back into the real world, all shocked. And she goes, come on, Matt, let's go. I'm like, when did you learn his name? Because I just learned it 5 seconds ago. You couldn't just do names like that. Are you serious? Oh. The humor in this movie is also really cringy. Yeah, there's this priest in the movie who is unbelievably cringy with his humor. And I was embarrassed for everyone in this movie. Like, there is not really one person I recognize in this movie, but I wouldn't be surprised if every A-list actor, like, this is so bad that this is not even scary. It's not even, like, funny either. It's not even so bad it's funny. There is, like, one interesting idea that they do in this movie where it's, like, they show you that when a person dies and they change their destiny and they still die, they show you how they could have died in a similar way. I thought, that's a really cool way to do that. Why don't you focus on that more? oh, we're not. We're not doing that. We're doing this lame movie with lame scares, and it's just never scary. The humor's bad. Also, they add uh, a subplot to the movie that's current right now. Well, it was current a couple years ago, but it's still relevant today. And it just feels so out of place with the rest of the movie that, like, I was kind of embarrassed that they put that in this movie, because it's like, that is important right now. That is a really big movement right now. That is a really important thing that needs to be discussed. And this movie is putting it in this movie, and it trivializes it. And I feel bad about it. And also, the ending makes absolutely no sense. Because, like, I said, okay, so when the big moment happens, like the big showdown happens, and this happens at the end of it, I'm like, wait, isn't this gonna happen afterwards? Wouldn't that make more sense if this happened afterwards? And then the end sets up a sequel that hopefully will not get made, will probably be released straight to streaming or something. Just, God, no, I don't need Countdown 2. I don't even need Countdown 1. It's that bad. So, Countdown, embarrassing, not scary, just a waste of time, really. A waste of effort, a waste of pretty much everything, basically. A waste of, like, it's... Like, I wouldn't be surprised... I feel bad for saying this, but I wouldn't be surprised most of these actors did not work again after this movie came out. And I know there's some big names in this movie, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of the newer actors in this movie did not get work again after this movie, because it was just that bad. I will give Countdown 1 out of 4 stars. Just skip it. Just don't see it. Oh boy. So, yeah. Those were some of the movies I saw back in October. I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about some movies. And I will be releasing a November video soon where I will talk about various movies such as Terminator Dark Fate, Harriet, Motherless Brooklyn, Last Christmas, Midway, Good Liar, Charlie's Angels, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Also, I will be releasing separate videos for Dr. Sleep and Ford v Ferrari in the next few days. So, what'd you think? What was your favorite movie in October? Comment down below. Subscribe to the channel if you like. This is Pat, and I'll see you around.